Hey guys, how's it going? This is RHouse21, and this will be a quick sequence of videos. And the purpose of this video is to document my process of tearing down, stripping this X01, which I picked up on eBay, to the bones, and then rebuilding it, and then turn around and strip it again so I can install Boca bearings, orange seal bearings for a set of instructional installation videos. The reason I'm doing this is, as you guys may know, for some of the 100-mile-an-hour clubs, like GGJ Fly Guy Club, stock X01s are not eligible. However, in order to make your car eligible, you need to build it yourself. And this series of, this video is just basically documenting me tearing this thing apart, doing my mods, and rebuilding it to show that this is my scratch-built X01 for speedruns. Okay. All right, so as you see, I've already just went ahead and taken off these tires. These are going away. So I got this X01 off of eBay, and it's got some issues. So, I mean, number one, it's still got the stock shocks on it, on front and rear. It's got, for some reason, they replaced the rear bar, so the rear A-arms, with RPMs, and that's good for a basher truck. Is not good for a speedrun car. I've talked about this before. These RPM arms are made out of soft, very soft nylon based plastic material, which makes them very durable and everything, but they can't stand the loads of the harder core springs, so they will actually bend and sag. I mean, they're not made for a 12-pound vehicle, they're made for like a 7-pound vehicle, and they will sag over time. They sagged on Slade, my Rustler, and they'll sag on the other ones that have a high rate spring on them, and it's just what they do. So for a speedrun application, you really do need these. You need the stock arms, or you need aluminum arms. I like the stock arms because they're plastic and they're lighter. If you're in a situation where you wreck and you're going to break an arm, aluminum arm is going to suffer damage just like these arms are. The aluminum arm is going to be deformed. It's not going to go back in the right position. These are cheap. You replace them and just go on with your day. Also, this model has a broken shock cap, which I already removed off there. I'm also going to go through, I said, the bearings. Every bearing in this is going to be replaced with Boca orange seals. I'm going to go through the electronics. There's some screwed up things in the electronics, like this horrible solder joint here. This is a fire waiting to happen. So the electrical connectors are getting changed, different electronics. I'm removing the telemetry system that's in here because I don't use it. I don't need it. That can go on eBay. So the receiver and transmitter that came with this are going to be gone. I'm going to service the differentials. So they're getting refreshed differential fluid. So like I said, this thing is going to be completely disassembled and completely reassembled twice, before I'm done with it. Because, like I said, I got to do all the surgery, got to remove all this stuff, especially the stuff I'm not going to use. So I'll tag back in as I get to certain stages of the process, and you'll get to see this thing happen. And like I said, this is largely just documenting the fact that, that when this is all said and done, it's going to look very similar, but it's going to be a completely different vehicle. Okay, so this is why it's important that if you buy something off of eBay, you want to go through and you want to do a complete teardown, and you want to rebuild it, because you don't know what interesting things are going to be lurking inside your models unless you physically get in there and you inspect it, especially if you're going to be doing something like speed runs, because a failure mechanism can come from anywhere, and you need to know that you can trust your hardware. I mean, just looking at this chassis, there's a bunch of stuff in here, like right here, and where there's fuser and this body plate meet, that's not seating right. So there's something going on under there. It looks like they just didn't fit that together properly when they fit. And it's this side skirt right here too. It doesn't look like anything, but that could be a clearance issue when you're at speed. That can cause instability. This thing right here, same thing, that can cause us to bottom out, shear that off. This thing with the differential, I'm really kind of curious to see, once I get the differentials apart, to make sure that all the teeth are good, that the differentials are in good running condition, that they're ready to go. So, and I already showed you the A-arms and the special soldering. So like I said, you never know what kind of ticking time bombs you can find inside of these vehicles. So you really need to do this process. You need to tear it down, inspect it, make sure that you trust it. I mean, if you're just parking lot bashing, this doesn't matter. But if you're trying to get the absolute performance out of your vehicle, this is imperative. This is a must. You have to do this. Okay guys, so I've got the front and back clips off. Now, the X01 is still a slash-based car. So the nice thing about the slash-based cars is that they're made, they come apart easily. So the X01 becomes apart with the rear end comes off with 6 screws, 4 on the bottom, 2 up top on the chassis brace, and then basically the same type of setup, 4 on the chassis, 2 up here on the brace, and then also 1 to disconnect the servo. You can connect the servo at the horn, but then you have to go through the process of trying to realign the servo, which I'm probably going to do anyway, just to make sure that the wheels line up straight. But if you take it off right here, at where it pushes the steering arm, and that's this little guy right here, then it comes apart a lot easier. So so now this whole assembly is pretty much ready to operate on or do whatever you want to do. So I'm going to have to get inside of here, change out the receiver. That's not a big deal. And I'm going to have to take off these electrical connectors. So I'm probably going to go ahead and do that before I try to reassemble everything. But right now I need to go in and inspect these, inspect the front and the rear clip to make sure that there's no broken pieces, that there's nothing missing, or that there's anything that could be a potential issue. But and also change out these suspension arms, because like I said, I love RPM for a lot of things. I do not love RPM suspension arms for this application. I mean, because if you look at this thing, you can see it's bent, it's bowed, and the reason is, like I said, if you look right here where the shock attaches, that is a very high stress point. And you know, these shocks, I mean, these arms are made for flexibility, not for absolute strength. So over time, under the weight of the car, it's just going to sag. So you also see that this is pretty cruddy back here. So this car has apparently been run well. So this is all going to get cleaned up and get reserviced, and I'll go ahead and knock all that out. All right. Oh, and let's go ahead and just peek in the front here. Same type of thing. It's dusty. It's a little bit beaten. So like I said, this is going to come completely apart. That's just going to come apart twice again. Like I said, one for the just for my inspection, and then for the bearing swap videos I'm going to be doing too. Okay guys, so you can see here I went ahead and replaced the RPM suspension arms with stock suspension arms. These are spares I had sitting around. So this is actually, you could argue it might not be as strong, quote unquote, but it's a lot more rigid. And like I said, in this application, if we're in, you know, we're not off-roading here. If we get into a situation where parts are going to be breaking, they're going to be breaking regardless of what they're made out of. So so the stock arms are just fine. So there's also an issue with this turnbuckle right here. So if you can see that it looks like it was shaved down, or something strange is going on. So I'm going to replace this one with a spare turnbuckle. Okay guys, as you can see, I've went ahead, I've rebuilt the rear end. I've repaired the shocks and also changed out to the red GTR springs. These are eRevo and Slayer type springs. I've gone to the blue for the rear, and I'm putting silver on the front. That's tightening this thing up tremendously. I've also gone through, and this is just a trick, to these the X01 has these rubber ends on here. These things dry out over time. So a little bit of silicone lubrication on here basically helps to keep them pliable and helps make them last a lot longer. So that's been all taken care of. This rear end's going to be slapped back together, and then I'm going to take it back apart again, like I said, for the bearing installation video. But just need to do the same quick service to the front end, and then we'll be back on. Okay guys, so just showing that sometimes it's easier to work in parallel. Over here you see this is the gutted front end of my of the rolling chassis that's going to be up on eBay here very shortly. This right here is the front end of my new personal X01. So this guy and this guy are both going to be torn down completely just like this. And I'm doing that just to go through and just give a good inspection of all the internals. Make sure that the differential ring and pinion gears are in good condition. Re-lube them, service them if necessary, and build it back up so that, you know, everything is completely trustworthy. So yeah, like I said, if you buy a car off eBay, you gotta do this stuff. You have to, because if you don't know the real condition of the car. And if you're going to be pushing them hard, you have to know that you can trust them. So I'm still early in the tear down of this guy, actually. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is coming completely apart, just like this one is, so I can just make sure everything's good. All right, okay, so here I am again, and it's a good thing I tore this thing apart. I noticed that, number one, the inside of that axle housing, or sorry, inside of that differential is bone dry. There's no lubricant on those gears at all. That could have been a very bad thing. Number two, there's a crack on this bulkhead down here. So I went ahead and patched it up with some epoxy. It's setting right now. And this really just helps to locate or to keep the front chin splitter in position, so it doesn't really have a lot of structural function in the car, but I just want to have that be one whole piece. And this is for my personal car. Over here for the roller, everything's in good condition, so that's sweet. And you know, I lubricated the gears inside of here, so this is all good.